Throughout history, many tragic events, most of the people affected by them didn't survive. This is why telling the stories of those who survived is so important. They help us learn from the past to make a better future for the next generations. One of those events was the Holocaust, which happened during World War II and the scenery of Elie Wiesel history. Elie Wiesel was just an ordinary boy born on September 30, 1928, inside Romania that lived during the time of World War II and the Nazi expansion. Wiesel had three sisters, Bia, Hilda, and Zipporah, and his father Shlomo, and his mother Sarah. In 1944, Hungary and Poland made an agreement that caused the deportation of Jews to the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp in Nazi Poland. And while he was only 15, Wiesel and his family were part of the Holocaust. During that time, more than 6 million Jews died, but many people also survived this tragedy. The Holocaust, like Wiesel did.
And somehow we were abandoned. The Hungarian Jewish community could have been saved because we were deported, as I write it here. March 19, the Germans came in. We were deported May 17, 2 weeks or 3 weeks before D-Day. If the Allies really had bombed the railways to Auschwitz, thousands and thousands of Jews would have been saved. At that time, the Germans were burning 10,000 men, women, and children every day, every night. That hurts.
There, Wiesel lost his mom and youngest sister, Zipporah, while Wiesel, his father, and his two other sisters were forced to work in deplorable and inhumane conditions. After a time, they were transferred to Buchenwald, where his father died, and 3 months later, in the year of 1945, he and his sisters were liberated and survived the Holocaust.
Your dad, when you were 16, Buchenwald.
Yes, but my dad and I at home, I didn't see him that often because he was always either in the store, and I was studying, and he was always involved in community affairs. If I think about it today, if I'm so involved now in helping, trying to help people, it's because of him. I inherited it from him. And my father was always therefore busy with helping people. And often I was so eager to be alone with him, to be alone and tell him stories, listen to his stories. But yet, no time. Inside Auschwitz, we became so close because we had no one else. I was all he had, and he was all I had. And one of the reasons I'm sure why I lived is because I was afraid that if I died, he would die. Same thing for him. He wanted to live because of me. And when in Buchenwald finally he did die, I did not continue to live. It wasn't life. That's why in my first memoir, Night,
Right.
a few pages, about 3 months, because I didn't feel alive.
Numb.
I was paralyzed. My life was the life of a paralyzed person. Everything in me was paralyzed. My thought process was paralyzed. The brain was paralyzed. My soul was paralyzed. I functioned without knowing what I was doing because he wasn't there.
As we know, the Holocaust was severe and dehumanized, so it makes the survivors' story so important to understand this event. It made Wiesel write many books telling his story, and the most famous being Night, that shows how his life was in the concentration camp, because Wiesel thinks that forgetting that dad is the same thing as killing them a second time.
April 1st, 1944. The Wiesel family joined the deportation to Auschwitz in a railway cattle car. May 1st, 1944. After 1 month of travel, Elie Wiesel arrives at Birkenau, Auschwitz, the concentration camp he would pass the next year of his life. June 1st, 1944. Elie witnessed the hanging of a small boy. The shock was so immense he believed God was murdered by the cold hand of the Germans alongside the boy. July 1st, 1944. Elie and his father are marched towards Buna, where Elie got a number tattooed on his arm. A7 A7713. This number is a symbol the Germans marked on his flesh as a reminder that he will be treated like cattle. January 1st, 1945. Elie and his father chose to evacuate alongside the other prisoners, a decision that would later cause the death of his father, since staying behind would have got both of them rescued. January 10th, 1945. Elie and his father are loaded into ruthless cattle cars to go to their new concentration camp, Buchenwald. January 29th, 1945. Elie Wiesel lost his father, who suffered death through dysentery. When Elie woke up, Shlomo had already been taken to the crematory. April 11th, 1945. Exactly 1 year and 10 days after first being deported to Auschwitz, Elie Wiesel and the other Jews were freed by the Americans from the Nazis.
But in the meantime,
But you must have had very different questions.
I had
Now,
terrible questions, of course. But
what kind of
later
God
on,
and how do you find?
about humanity, what kind of humanity is this that allows such tragedy, such crimes to be committed? And what
Never
about...
answered that, have you?
I have no answer. All the questions I had then really remained open.
They
What
remain
about
open
culture?
today.
Of course. What about culture?
Yeah.
The killers were cultured persons, educated persons. Some of them had PhDs. When I discovered, the Einsatzkommandos, who were the worst because they did Babi Yar and Pinsk, they killed with machine guns, not even with gas. Some of them had doctoral degrees in arts, in medicine, in theology. I couldn't believe it. But they did it. So what is culture? Why be educated? Why go to the Sorbonne? Why study?
Because education is supposed to be a civilizing influence on you.
It's supposed to be-
give you a sense of your connection with the trend, the
Concept
evolution
that-
of civilization.
It was
your
supposed to be a
place-
shield.
Yes.
Civilization
And a
is there.
grounding.
And it's nothing.
He dedicated his life to defending human rights, keeping the memory of the Holocaust alive through education and passionately defending the state of Israel. Among the causes supported by his foundation, according to the organization itself, were the defense of Jews from the former USSR, those missing from the Argentine military dictatorship, refugees from Cambodia, the Kurds, and the fight against apartheid in South Africa. As an activist, Wiesel opposed the reunification of Germany in 1989, saying that it would fuel the resurgence of anti-Semitism. In 1985, at the same time he received the gold medal from the United States Congress at the White House, he openly criticized President Ronald Reagan for having scheduled a visit in Germany at the cemetery where some of the highest leaders of the Nazism were located. This is not our place. Your place is alongside the victims of the Nazism, he said. Wiesel's Nobel Prize reading. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. The Talmud tells us that by saving a single human being, man can save the world. We may be powerless to open all the jails and free all the prisoners, but declaring our solidarity with one prisoner will indict all jailers. None of us is in the position to eliminate war, but it is our obligation to denounce and expose it all this rigidness. War leaves no victors, only victims. I began with the story of the Bashed, and like the Bashed, mankind needs to remember more than ever Mankind needs peace more than ever, for our entire planet, treated by nuclear war, is in danger of total destruction. A destruction only man can provoke, only man can prevent. Mankind must remember that peace is not God's gift to his creatures, but it's our gift to each other.